It's no secret that the cost of food is rising all across the country. It's pretty obvious that it's cheaper to eat at home rather than going out to eat. But what about snacks? What about a chocolate chip cookie? Is it cheaper to make one from scratch, or is it cheaper to buy a package in store? We all know that it tastes better, but what about the cost? Well, that's the question that I'm going to answer in today's video. I decided to come to Walmart to look at the prices because this is a store that most people in the US have access to. I came to take pictures of the prices and the serving sizes on the containers. I won't be buying all of these ingredients because I have many of these items already at home. I want to get the most up-to-date price for each of these ingredients and also find the lowest price for each ingredient in my store. When you look at price tags in store, you'll see two different sets of numbers listed. On this tag, the big number in yellow is the price of the item, and the smaller number in red is the per unit price. Most of the time, that is the price per ounce. It's important to look at that number. Most of the time when you buy a bigger container, you're getting a better value and a lower price per unit. However, that wasn't true for these eggs. If you look at the tag, you'll see that the unit price for this half dozen of eggs is $1.72 per dozen, but for the full dozen package, it's $1.84. If I needed a dozen eggs, it would actually be better to pick up 2 half-dozen containers. And in the case of this flour, the per unit price is the same for the 5-pound bag as it is for the 10-pound bag. So in that case, it doesn't matter if you pick up the smaller bag or the larger bag. You might want to pick up the larger bag just as a matter of convenience if you use a lot of flour. I'm looking at the prices of all of the different brands in store, but I'm consistently finding that the Great Value brand is the lowest one. The Great Value brand is Walmart's store brand. The only case where I see a name brand that's the same price as the Great Value brand is in the butter aisle. A 1-pound box of Challenge butter is the same price as the Great Value brand. After I looked at all of the prices for the ingredients, I also went to the cookie aisle to find the cheapest cookies in store. And no surprise, the cheapest ones that I could find were also a Great Value brand. I'm also going to grab the most expensive ones that I can find in this aisle, and they're these Tate's Bake Shop. I've never had these before, but they look good. The chocolate chip recipe that I'm going to be making today is from the 1969 version of the Betty Crocker cookbook. This cookbook belonged to my grandmother, and my mother had a copy of this cookbook as well. So I'm very familiar with this recipe because I made it a lot growing up. And still to this day, this is the recipe that I make when I make chocolate chip cookies. This recipe says that it makes about 7 dozen, and I don't think I've ever gotten 7 dozen out of this recipe, but I will go ahead and prepare it and see how many cookies that I get. I'm also going to leave a link in my description box below to a website that has this recipe if you want to make it yourself. When you're making chocolate chip cookies, you always add in your butter, shortening, sugars, eggs, and vanilla first. I'm going to tell you all the cost of each of these ingredients, but first I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how I calculated the cost. The cheapest unit cost for eggs in my store was the half dozen for 86 cents. To calculate the cost, I divided that 86 cents by 6, and that came out to about 14 cents. I multiplied the 14 cents by 2, and that came out to 28 cents. So that's about the cost of these 2 eggs that I'll be adding into my chocolate chip cookies. To give you all another example, the cheapest vanilla extract that I could find in my store was $3.66 for 2 ounces. I know from Googling that there are 6 teaspoons in an ounce, so that's 12 teaspoons in 2 ounces. I divided the $3.66 by 12, and it came out to 30 cents or about 30.5 cents. So 2 teaspoons would be 61 cents. Now that you have an idea of how I calculated the cost, I'm going to tell you what each of these ingredients cost as I add them in. I'm adding in 2/3 of a cup of shortening, and that is 40 cents. Butter was one of the most expensive ingredients. It was about 99 cents for 2/3 of a cup. 1 cup of sugar is only 18 cents. A cup of brown sugar is a little bit more expensive. It's about 32 cents. I already let you guys know that 2 eggs is about 28 cents. 2 tablespoons of vanilla is about 61 cents. So I've mixed up those ingredients and now I'm gonna add my dry ingredients. I will say that you should probably soften your butter in the microwave for a few seconds before you add it in. Mine was sitting out for a little while and usually I'll pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds, but in making this video, I forgot to do it and it made the process just a little bit harder to mix it up. I'm adding in 3 cups of flour and the cost for that is about 24 cents. I'm adding in a teaspoon of soda and the cost of this is actually less than a penny. I calculated it at half of a cent. Next, I'm adding in a teaspoon of salt. Salt is also incredibly cheap. A teaspoon of it is only a third of a penny. So I'm going to calculate these 2 items to be 1 cent. The last item is the most expensive one. It is 12 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chip cookies and it's $1.74. My dough is all mixed up and the cost of the ingredients that I added in to make this dough is $4.77. I'm going to use my cookie scoop and see how many cookies that I can create from this dough to see my cost per cookie. Fun fact, I did not have a cookie scoop until about 2 years ago when my husband got me one for Christmas. I would just always use a spoon. Let me know in the comments below if you use an actual cookie scoop or if you use a spoon. I have my first dozen ready to go in the oven and I still have tons in the bowl. I have my second dozen ready to go while the first is in the oven and I still have quite a bit of dough left. This is my third dozen and I probably have enough for another dozen. Well, I was able to squeeze out 4 dozen and my last dozen I'm gonna freeze because we definitely don't need that many cookies in this house and I'll probably take some over to my mom's to give to her. So I ended up with 48 cookies. And since the cost of my ingredients was $4.77, that makes the cost of each cookie about 10 cents. How does that price compare to the cheapest chocolate chip cookies that I could find at Walmart? The Great Value brand Classic Chippers. This bag has 11 servings of 3 cookies, so it has 33 cookies in here, and it costs $1.44, which means that each cookie is only 4 cents. That's pretty cheap. The other end of the spectrum, we have these Tate's Bake Shop cookies, which have 7 servings of 2 cookies. So there are only 14 cookies in this container, and it costs $4.12, which means that each cookie is about 29 cents. So here are the 3 cookies. This is my cookie, which cost about 10 cents, the Tate's cookie, which cost about 29 cents, and the Great Value cookie, which cost only 4 cents. So now I'm gonna try each of these cookies and let you know what I think. I'll start with the cheapest one, the Great Value. Honestly, it's better than I thought it would be. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It just has kind of a weird aftertaste. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. Next, I'm gonna do my cookie, the homemade chocolate chip cookie. It's still a little bit warm from the oven, so of course it's perfect. It's just like, it's the perfect cookie. The last cookie is the Tate's cookie. It's a very thin cookie, which is interesting, but I do like cookies that are thin as well as the fluffy ones. This is very good as well. I think that they did something with the butter and brown sugar. If I were to rate these 3 cookies, I would rate the one that I made as the best. That was pretty obvious. The Tate's cookie as the second best. This is a really good cookie. And the Great Value brand as the third. This one is not as bad as I thought it would be. It's actually a good cookie. Definitely something you can pack in your kids' lunch and they'll be happy with it. So is it cheaper to buy cookies or to make them at home? I think it depends on what your expectation is. If you're just looking for something to stick in your kid's lunchbox, you could definitely go with the Great Value brand. They would probably be happy with that. However, if you're looking for something that's a little higher quality, something that you yourself would enjoy, something that you want to serve your friends with coffee, it is cheaper to bake them at home. I didn't check on the cookies from the Walmart bakery department, But by looking on the app, I can see that they sell a dozen for $1.98, and that would be about 16 cents each. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And leave me a comment below letting me know what your favorite store brand cookie is. And as always, thank you for watching. Check out my Instagram and TikTok. They are both at AMYWAYTOSAVE.